Welcome back to our channel World of Coins, the place where we uncover hidden treasures in your coin collection. Have you ever wondered if that old coins could be worth thousands or even millions? Well, today's your lucky day. We're diving into some of the rarest and most valuable US coins that might be sitting right under your nose. Let's jump in and see if you've got a fortune waiting to be discovered. Top 1. Today, we're talking about a coin that changed everything in American coinage history, a coin that, at first glance, may look like just another worn quarter from decades past. But to those who know what to look for, it's far more than 25 cents. Yes, we're talking about the 1965 Washington quarter. This coin marks a turning point in U.S. mint history, and what happened that year has led to some of the most surprising rarities, mind-blowing errors, and record-breaking auction prices ever associated with a modern quarter. So, coin collectors, history lovers, and treasure hunters, listen very carefully. Because by the end of this video, you'll not only know what makes the 1965 quarter so special, but you might be inspired to check your change drawer with a whole new perspective. Let's begin our story. The year is 1965. The United States is booming. The space race is in full swing. The Beatles are on the radio. And the US Mint is facing a serious problem, a silver crisis. Since 1932, the Washington quarter had been made of 90% silver, and for over 3 decades, it had circulated as real money with real intrinsic value. But by the early 1960s, silver prices were climbing fast. It had reached a point where the silver in a quarter was worth more than 25 cents. People noticed. Collectors and average citizens alike started hoarding silver coins. Banks couldn't keep quarters in stock. The government had to act, and so came a decision that would change U.S. coins forever. In 1965, the mint officially removed silver from the quarter and replaced it with a new composition, a copper-nickel-clad coin, made with a copper core and nickel outer layer. The idea was simple: cheaper materials, mass production, and less hoarding. And that's why the 1965 Washington quarter is so important. It was the first year of the clad composition, but here's the twist: in the chaos of transitioning materials, some silver planchets from 1964 were still lying around at the mint, and a few of them were accidentally struck with 1965 dies. That means there are 1,965 quarters struck on 90% silver planchets, and those are worth a fortune. Let's repeat that: some 1965 quarters were struck in silver by mistake. And they are one of the rarest and most exciting mint errors in modern numismatics. Now you might be thinking, how do I know if my 1965 quarter is silver? That's the question that could lead you to an incredible discovery. Here's what to check: the edge of the coin. Most 1965 quarters have a copper-colored edge, because of the clad core. But if yours has a pure silver-colored edge, that's a major clue. The sound: silver coins make a higher-pitched, ringing ping when dropped. Clad coins have a duller, flatter sound. The weight: silver quarters weigh about 6.25 grams, while clad quarters weigh 5.67 grams. A scale accurate to hundredths of a gram can help you identify a silver planchet. The color: silver quarters tend to have a cleaner, shinier, brighter surface than their clad counterparts, especially in circulated condition. Now, even if your 1965 quarter is not struck on a silver planchet, don't walk away just yet. There are multiple errors and varieties from this year that make it one of the most collectible quarters in U.S. history. Let's explore some of the most valuable and fascinating ones. 1. Off-center strike. These happen when the coin blank isn't properly aligned during striking. The design ends up partially missing, shifted toward one side. A 1965 quarter struck 40% or more off-center, with the full date still visible, is a major collector's item. 2. Double die obverse, DDO. While rare, there are 1,965 quarters with visible doubling in the words "Liberty," "In God We Trust," and even Washington's eye or profile. These coins, especially in higher grades, are highly sought after and can command serious premiums. 3. Clipped planchet. This happens when a blank is cut from the edge of a metal sheet, resulting in a coin with a crescent-shaped clip on one side. On a 1965 quarter, a clipped planchet with a clean clip and full date is a showstopper for any error collector. 4. Broad strike and missing reed errors. 1965 was the first year of the reeded edge clad quarter. But in some cases, coins were struck without the collar that gives the edge its ridges. These coins appear wider than normal and have smooth edges. This type of broad strike error is especially appealing when the strike is sharp. Point 5. Struck on wrong planchet. This is one of the rarest and most exciting errors. A 1965 quarter struck on a dime planchet, foreign coin planchet, or leftover silver blank from previous years. These errors often weigh too little or look strangely colored, and they are worth far more than face value. Point 6. Die adjustment strike. This is when the mint tests the pressure of the dies and accidentally strikes a coin with far too little force. The result is a very faint design, almost like a ghost coin. These are extremely rare from 1965. Let's not forget about condition. This year, the mint was producing coins in a rush, with lower strike quality, due to the nationwide coin shortage. That's why well-struck, uncirculated 1965 quarters are rare, especially those that grade MS66 or higher. A coin with a strong strike, no contact marks, and brilliant luster is valuable by itself, even without an error. Now let me share a story that stunned collectors around the world. A man in Texas, who had been collecting coins for over 20 years, was going through a box of old coins inherited from his grandfather. Inside was a worn roll of quarters, wrapped in aged paper. He opened it, expecting face value change. But one 1965 quarter felt different. He noticed the silver edge, and it weighed just a little more than the others, 6.25 grams. That he sent it to be authenticated and graded. The result: 1965 Washington quarter struck on a 90% silver planchet. Graded MS62. It went to auction and shocked the bidding crowd. That small, silver-colored coin, originally worth only 25 cents, sold for $185,000. Yes, you heard that correctly. $185,000. And all because of a mistake made 60 years ago. So now it's your turn. Go check your change. Look through that old coin jar, those forgotten rolls, those boxes tucked away in drawers. If you find a 1965 Washington quarter, examine it carefully. Feel the edge. Weigh it if you can. Use a magnifier to check for doubling. Look for smooth edges or clipped planchets, because that everyday coin in your pocket just might be worth a life-changing amount of money. Thank you for joining us on this incredible journey into coin history. If you enjoy learning about rare coins, legendary errors, and amazing discoveries hiding in everyday change, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. And now we want to hear from you. Have you ever found a 1965 quarter with something strange about it? Let us know in the comments. We read every story, and you might even get featured in a future video. Until next time, keep searching, keep learning, and remember, some of the most valuable treasures aren't buried, they're sitting in your hand, just waiting to be found. Top 2. We're diving deep into a coin that is often overlooked, passed from hand to hand, thrown in jars, and dropped in vending machines without a second thought. But this particular coin holds secrets, errors, surprises. And one version of it, just one, made headlines when it shocked the numismatic world. Yes, we're talking about the 1971 Washington quarter. A coin with a face value of just 25 cents. But what if I told you that this very coin, when found in a certain condition or struck with rare minting mistakes, could be worth a fortune? That's not a story, it's a fact. And today, we're going to walk you through the rarity, history, and the incredible error varieties that make this quarter so collectible, so exciting, and, in some cases, so valuable, it could fund your dreams. So coin lovers, collectors, and seekers of hidden gems, listen very carefully. Because by the end of this video, you may just find yourself looking at your spare change with new eyes. Let's rewind the clock to 1971. America was in transition. The Vietnam War was drawing criticism, the Apollo space missions were changing how we saw the universe, and the nation was preparing to move deeper into a decade of cultural change. But in the coin world, something else was happening. Something subtle, and easily missed. The Washington quarter, first introduced in 1932, had seen some major changes just a few years prior. From 1932 to 1964, the quarter was struck in 90% silver. But starting in 1965, due to rising silver prices and coin hoarding, the mint changed the composition to a copper-nickel clad design, no more silver, just a nickel layer over a copper core, and by 1971, this new clad quarter had become the standard. But that doesn't mean the coin was ordinary. In fact, quite the opposite, because among the millions of 1971 quarters minted, a very small number stand out, and not because of design changes, but because of how they were made, and what went wrong during production. Let's talk errors, because that's where the magic begins. Point 1. Wrong planchet errors. This is one of the most exciting types of mint mistakes. Sometimes, during the minting process, blanks from another denomination, or even another country, accidentally get struck with the wrong design. And yes, some 1971 Washington quarters were struck on planchets meant for nickels, dimes, or even foreign coins. The weight is off. The metal looks different. And when collectors discover one of these, the value skyrockets. Point 2. Silver planchet errors. Although silver quarters officially ended in 1964, a small number of silver blanks may have remained in the minting machinery and accidentally struck with 1971 dies. These are ultra-rare. They can be identified by weight, 6.25 grams instead of the usual 5.67, and have that unmistakable silver ring. If you ever find one of these, you're holding a treasure. Point 3. Off-center strikes. A popular and dramatic error. These occur when the blank is misaligned with the dies during striking. The result? Part of the design is missing, and the blank surface shows. A 1971 quarter with a 50% off-center strike, especially with the date visible, is a collector's dream. Point 4. Clipped planchets. If a blank is cut from the edge of the metal sheet, it can end up with a missing portion. These clipped planchet errors are clearly visible and quite collectible, especially when the clip is clean and the coin is otherwise well struck. Point 5. Double die errors. This one sends collectors into a frenzy. A double die happens when the design is accidentally stamped twice onto the die at slightly different angles. This causes parts of the coin, usually the text like, "In God We Trust," "Liberty," or the date, to appear doubled. Although rare, double die varieties from 1971 do exist and command serious value. Point 6. Broad strike and collar errors. When a quarter is struck without the retaining collar that gives it a defined rim, the coin spreads outward slightly, making it look warped or unusually wide. These broad-struck coins are irregular and attention-grabbing, often worth much more than face value, but it's not just about errors. Condition is everything in the coin world. Most 1971 quarters were heavily circulated. They passed through thousands of hands, scratched, worn, and beaten over time. So finding one in uncirculated mint state condition, especially MS65, MS66, or higher, is extremely rare. Now let's talk about grading. Coins are graded on a 70-point scale. A coin with a grade of MS65 or above is considered high grade and exceptional. Combine that high grade with a rare error or unique feature, and suddenly you're holding something far more valuable than a simple quarter. Now here's a true story that electrified the collecting community. A retired machinist from Michigan, who spent weekends searching through coin rolls from his local bank, came across a 1971 quarter that looked odd. It felt a little heavier, had a slightly different color, and sounded different when dropped on a wooden table. He took it to a local coin shop. Then to a grading service. What he had found was a 1971 Washington quarter struck on a 90% silver planchet, likely left over from earlier production. Not only was the coin silver, but it was in stunning mint state 66 condition, with crisp detail and almost no wear. At a national auction, bidding was fierce. Collectors knew they were looking at a mistake that was never supposed to happen. When the hammer finally fell, the coin sold for a mind-blowing $155,000, yes. You heard that right. $155,000, for a quarter minted in 1971. And that's not a legend. That's a verified sale, documented, graded, and sealed in a protective slab with its story forever preserved. So now, ask yourself, have you ever taken a second look at your 1971 quarters? If not, maybe today is the day to check. Look for a silver edge. Weigh it if you can. Examine the text under magnification. Flip it. Check the sound. Pay attention to the edges and rims. If you find something unusual, send it in. You might just be holding the next six-figure coin in your hands, because in the world of coins, it's not always about age or shine, it's about rarity, error, and timing. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into one of America's most overlooked yet fascinating coins. If you love stories of rare finds, shocking prices, and the hidden value in everyday change, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss another exciting video. And if you've ever found a 1971 quarter that looks different, maybe a weird color, odd weight, or unusual rim, let us know in the comments. Your discovery could be worth more than you think. Until next time, keep collecting, keep exploring, and remember, sometimes, the coin that changes your life is already in your pocket. Top 3. We're zooming in on a coin that many people have touched, spent, or simply tossed into a drawer without a second glance, a coin that hides some of the most intriguing mysteries of modern numismatics. That we're talking about the 1974 Washington quarter dollar, a coin that could be in your pocket right now, and yet, if it's the right one, it might just be worth a fortune. So whether you're a die-hard numismatist or just someone hoping to strike it rich from spare change, listen very carefully. Because this episode could open your eyes to one of the greatest hidden treasures in American coin history. Let's take a step back in time. The year is 1974. The Vietnam War is winding down, Richard Nixon is in office, and Americans are seeing rising inflation, oil shortages, and economic pressure. While these events captured the headlines, something quiet, but historic, was happening at the United States Mint. The Washington quarter, a coin first introduced in 1932 to honor the 200th birthday of George Washington, had already gone through a massive transformation less than a decade earlier. From 1932 to 1964, the quarter was made from 90% silver. But by 1965, that all changed. Rising silver prices forced the U.S. Mint to remove silver from circulating coins. That's when the Washington quarter began being struck with a copper-nickel-clad composition, a copper core, sandwiched between two layers of nickel. By 1974, this clad version had become standard. Yet, among the hundreds of millions of quarters struck that year, some came out different, some came out wrong, and some came out so perfect, or so mistakenly flawed, that they became the dream finds of collectors. So let's talk about the 1974 Washington quarter, what makes it special, where things went wrong, and how one of these coins could fetch a price so large. It seems almost unbelievable. Let's start with the basics. The obverse of the 1974 quarter features the iconic image of George Washington, facing left, designed by John Flanagan. The word Liberty arches over his head, with the date 1974 sitting neatly below his chin. On the reverse is the majestic heraldic eagle with outstretched wings, perched on a bundle of arrows, with olive branches below, representing both strength and peace. Now, hundreds of millions were minted that year, specifically at the Philadelphia, No Mint Mark, and Denver, D. Mints, but within this sea of circulation, a few coins stand apart. These are the ones collectors dream of finding. Let's talk about Y.1. Transitional errors. One of the most astonishing types of coin errors involves transitional planchets, when a coin is struck on a blank intended for a previous or different design. In the case of the 1974 quarter, some experts and collectors believe that a very small number of quarters were accidentally struck on silver planchets, leftover blanks that should have been retired a decade earlier. How can you tell if you have one? Check the weight. A regular clad quarter weighs 5.67 grams. A silver quarter weighs 6.25 grams. That small difference could be the clue to a massive treasure, and there's more, too. Wrong planchet errors. There are examples of 1974 quarters being struck on foreign coin planchets, or on blanks intended for other U.S. coins, like nickels or dimes. These coins will weigh significantly less or more than a normal quarter and often have missing details due to size mismatches. These wrong planchet errors are rare, but when authenticated, they fetch eye-popping prices. Point 3. Off-center strikes. A misaligned blank can cause the design to be off-center, creating a crescent-shaped blank space and shifting the entire image. If the date is still visible, and the off-center strike is dramatic, especially over 50%, this error is highly collectible. Point 4. Double die obverse, DDO. This is the holy grail for many error hunters. A DDO occurs when the coin die is impressed more than once at slightly different angles, creating a visible shadow or doubling effect on the coin's features. On 1974 quarters, doubling may appear on the words "In God We Trust," "Liberty," or the date itself. If verified, a strong doubled die can bring thousands of dollars, even more in high grades. 5. Clipped planchets and curved cuts. When a metal strip is punched incorrectly, a piece of the coin's edge can be missing entirely, creating a bite out of the quarter. These clipped planchet errors are dramatic, and when paired with a visible date, they become instant collectibles. 6. Broad struck and missing reads. If a quarter is struck outside its retaining collar, it may expand outward, losing its ridged edge. These broad struck coins look swollen and unusual. When in mint state condition, they're especially desirable. Now let's talk about something that collectors know all too well: grade matters. You might find a 1974 quarter with no errors at all, and it could still be worth serious money. Why? Because most quarters from this era were struck quickly and carelessly due to high production demands. Weak details, poor luster, and bag marks were common. So finding a 1974 quarter in pristine condition, with bold strike, sharp eagle feathers, clean fields, and no visible wear is incredibly rare. A certified MS-66 or MS-67 1974 quarter can demand hundreds of dollars or more. Add an error or a unique variety, and now you're talking thousands, and that brings us to a true collector's tale. A man from Ohio had a habit of saving older coins, not for rarity, but just for fun. One day, going through a jar of coins saved from the 1970s, he pulled out a 1974 quarter that looked shinier, heavier, and brighter than the others. The edge was pure silver, with no visible copper line. Curious, he took it to a local dealer who immediately noticed the weight, 6.25 grams. It was struck on a silver planchet. The coin was then submitted to a top-tier grading service. It came back authenticated as a 1974 Washington quarter struck on a 90% silver planchet, in mint state 65 condition. A transitional error of extreme rarity. When it was put up for auction, collectors went wild. The bidding escalated fast. Everyone wanted a piece of this modern miracle, and when the final gavel fell, the price stunned the room. That humble 25-cent piece, struck nearly 50 years ago, sold for $140,000. Yes, you heard that right. $140,000, for a quarter. So now, I ask you, have you checked your 1974 quarters? Go look. Dig through those old rolls, your childhood coin collection, your pocket change, even your grandparents' old stash. Weigh it. Listen to it. Examine the edges. Look for signs of doubling, missing details, weird shapes, or unusual luster. If something feels different, don't ignore it, because your ordinary-looking 1974 Washington quarter might just be a six-figure piece of history. Thank you for spending time with us on this exciting journey into American coinage. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a rarer coin. And hey, have you ever come across a strange-looking quarter? Let us know in the comments. You never know, your story could be our next big feature. Until next time, remember, the next great treasure may already be in your hands. Top 4. We take you on a journey through a coin that most people wouldn't think twice about. It's flipped in parking meters, tossed in tip jars, and buried at the bottom of junk drawers all across America, but today, that quarter could be your golden ticket. Yes, we're diving deep into the mysterious world of the 1979 Washington quarter dollar, a coin so common, it often hides in plain sight, yet some rare examples have sold for staggering amounts. So, if you're someone who loves the thrill of discovery, if you believe in stories hiding in ordinary objects, or if you're just curious about the next big coin find, listen very carefully and watch this video till the end, because you might never look at your change the same way again. Let's set the stage. The year is 1979. America is buzzing with energy. The disco era is still alive, gas prices are climbing, and a brand new dollar coin, featuring Susan B. Anthony, is being introduced to the public. But while most eyes were on the new dollar coin, another familiar face was quietly being struck at the mint. The ever-reliable Washington quarter. The Washington quarter had already become a staple in American currency. Introduced in 1932, it honored the 200th birthday of George Washington. Originally made of 90% silver, the composition changed in 1965 to a copper-nickel clad due to rising silver costs. So by 1979, the quarter was struck in copper-nickel, weighing 5.67 grams, with a diameter of 24.26 millimeters. On the obverse, the dignified bust of George Washington. On the reverse, the powerful American eagle perched on a bundle of arrows, olive branches beneath, designed to reflect strength and peace. Simple, right? But here's where the story takes a turn. Not all 1979 quarters were created equal. And some, thanks to rare errors and extremely low survival rates in pristine condition, have become exceptionally valuable. Let's explore what makes the 1979 Washington quarter one of the most surprising potential treasures in American pocket change. Point 1. The missing clad layer error. Imagine a quarter that looks wrong. The color is off. It's duller, more coppery. That's because sometimes, the outer layer of nickel is missing on one side, revealing the reddish copper core underneath. These are called missing clad layer errors, and in 1979, a few of them slipped out into circulation. Now, here's the catch: most of these errors were caught during quality control, but a few made it into the wild. If you find a 1979 quarter missing its clad layer on either the obverse or reverse, and it's in good condition, it could be extremely valuable. Point 2. Off-center strikes. These are dramatic, eye-catching, and collectors love them. An off-center strike happens when the coin blank isn't properly aligned with the dies, resulting in a shifted design. The more dramatic the offset, and the more of the date and design still visible, the more valuable the coin. Some 1979 quarters have been found with 60% or more off-center strikes. When that happens, especially if the date remains visible, you're looking at a rare collectible worth hundreds or even thousands of dollars. Point 3. Double die obverse, DDO. Few errors generate excitement like a double die. While not as common in 1979 quarters as other years, a verified DDO with visible doubling in the words Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or the date 1979 would be a prize any collector would fight for. If the doubling is bold and the coin is in excellent condition, the value can soar dramatically. Point 4. Broad strike errors. A broad strike happens when the collar die malfunctions during striking, causing the coin to spread out slightly. This gives the coin a larger diameter and a smooth, rimless edge. A 1979 quarter struck this way appears stretched and slightly melted around the edges, an eye-catching error and a valuable one, especially in mint condition. Point 5. Wrong planchet errors. Now here's a true numismatic gem. Every so often, a quarter is struck on a blank meant for a different coin, like a dime, penny, or even a foreign coin. These mistakes happen during coin planchet mixing at the mint. The result is a coin that's the wrong size, weight, and color, but with a full quarter design. In 1979, a few of these wrong planchet errors were struck and released. Finding one today is like hitting the jackpot. So how can you tell? Use a scale. If the weight is less than 5.67 grams, something's off. Compare the color. A darker or more reddish tone may suggest a penny planchet. Look at the edges. A missing reeded edge could point to an unusual strike. Now let's talk grades. Coins are graded on the Sheldon scale from 1 to 70. Most 1979 quarters in circulation grade somewhere between VF, very fine, to AU, almost uncirculated. But here's the kicker: mint state examples, MS 65 and above, are rare. Finding a 1979 quarter in MS 67 or higher is like finding a needle in a haystack. Why? Because quarters in the late 1970s were mass-produced in the hundreds of millions, often with poor striking quality, weak details, and heavy bag marks. High-grade survivors are few and far between, and that's what makes them valuable. Collector tip: in 1979 quarter with full eagle feather detail, no contact marks, and lustrous surfaces can be worth many times its face value, even without any error. But what happens when you combine a rare error with a high-grade strike? That's when values explode. Let me share one incredible true story. A hobbyist in California was sorting through old coins inherited from his grandfather. Inside a coffee tin was a pile of quarters ranging from the 1960s to the 1980s. One coin stood out. It had a strange edge, a brighter shine, and slightly different feel. He took it to a local coin shop. Then to a grading service. What he had found was a 1979 Washington quarter, in mint state 68, struck off-center with a missing clad layer on the reverse. It was a combination error, almost never seen in such pristine condition. The coin went to auction, and the result stunned the room. That ordinary-looking coin, born from a mix of mechanical failure and minting precision, sold for $125,000. That's right, $125,000, for a 25-cent piece. So, what's the takeaway? Check your coins closely. Look at your 1979 quarters. Examine the edges. Weigh them. Use a magnifier. Look for doubling. Off-center strikes. Missing layers. Weird coloring. Unusual smooth rims. A slight difference could be the key to a life-changing discovery, because sometimes, what seems common is hiding something extraordinary. Thank you for joining us today on Valuable Coins All World. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and turn on that bell to stay updated on rare coins, valuable errors, and the incredible history hiding in plain sight. And before you go, have you ever come across a strange-looking 1979 quarter? Tell us in the comments. Your coin story might just be our next big feature. Until next time, keep collecting, stay curious, and remember, great treasures are often disguised as ordinary coins. Top 5. We're about to explore a coin you've likely handled dozens, maybe hundreds of times, but few have ever stopped to look closely. It's small, round, and silver in color. It buys gum, pays meters, and hides at the bottom of cup holders. Yes, today's focus is on the 1988 Washington quarter dollar, a coin so common, you might think there's nothing special about it at all, but think again, because buried among the millions of 1988 quarters are true American treasures, coins that feature rare errors, minting mysteries, and hidden value that can transform a simple 25-cent piece into something extraordinary. So whether you're a seasoned collector or someone who's just getting started, I want you to listen very carefully and follow this story all the way to the end, because you might just learn that the coin sitting quietly in your drawer could be worth far, far more than you ever imagined. Let's begin our journey in the year 1988. The 1980s were nearing their end. Ronald Reagan was finishing his second term as president. The Cold War was winding down. America was booming with technology, pop culture, and innovation. And amidst it all, the U.S. Mint continued producing coins for everyday commerce, millions of them each day. Among those, the 1988 Washington quarter was one of the most heavily circulated coins of the year. Like other modern quarters of its time, the 1988 version was made of a copper-nickel clad composition, a copper core sandwiched between layers of nickel. It weighed 5.67 grams, had a 24.26 mm diameter, and featured the standard Washington design by John Flanagan, the bust of George Washington on the front, and a heraldic eagle on the reverse. So what makes this coin so special? At first glance, nothing, but as any serious collector knows, the true value of a coin lies not just in what it was meant to be, but in what went wrong, and in how it miraculously survived the decades in pristine condition. Let's dive into the fascinating world of 1988 quarter. Rarities and errors, the details that elevate this coin from pocket change to priceless collectible. Point 1. Double die obverse, DDO. Let's start with one of the most coveted types of mint errors, the double die. A double die obverse occurs when the die itself, used to stamp the image onto the coin, is impressed twice at slightly different angles. When this flawed die strikes a blank planchet, it leaves behind doubled text or numbers. On 1988 quarters, look closely at Liberty, Indiana, God We Trust, and the date 1988. If you see any visible doubling in these areas, particularly a shadow-like doubling effect, you might have a valuable DDO on your hands. Collectors and grading services pay serious attention to strong doubling, especially when the coin is in uncirculated condition. Point 2. Off-center strike. This is one of the most visible and dramatic errors. Off-center strikes happen when the blank is not properly aligned in the press. The design ends up shifted, sometimes by just a few degrees, sometimes drastically. On 1988 quarters, an off-center strike of 10% to 70%, especially one that still shows the full date and mint mark, is considered highly collectible. The more off-center it is, while still preserving important design elements, the higher its value. Point 3. Missing clad layer error. Occasionally, a quarter will be struck with one of its nickel layers missing, revealing the reddish copper underneath. This error causes the coin to appear dull and off-color. These naked copper quarters weigh slightly less than standard ones. That if you find a 1988 quarter with only one nickel layer or an exposed copper core on either side, that's a classic missing clad layer error. It's visually striking, and collectors love them. Point 4. Broad strike error. Imagine a quarter that looks bloated, wider, and missing its ridged edge. That's a broad strike, a result of the coin being struck without the collar die, allowing the metal to expand outward during striking. That a 1988 broad-struck quarter in mint state condition is quite rare and can fetch impressive prices at auction. Point 5. Wrong planchet error. This is a dream find. A wrong planchet error occurs when a coin is struck on a blank meant for another denomination or country. It could be smaller, larger, lighter, or heavier than normal. There have been documented cases of quarters struck on nickel, dime, and even foreign planchets. If your 1988 quarter feels off in size or weight, get it weighed and verified. It might be one of these once-in-a-lifetime minting accidents. Point 6. Die cracks and cuds. These are more subtle but still collectible. A die crack is a raised line caused by a crack in the die, and a cud is a blob-like feature caused by a piece of the die breaking off. Both are relatively common but can be extremely valuable if they're large, clear, and well-placed, especially near Washington's face or the eagle's wings. But what if your 1988 quarter has no error at all? Well, here's something many don't realize. Condition alone can make a coin extremely valuable. The vast majority of 1988 quarters were heavily circulated. They've been dropped, scraped, worn down, and damaged over time. That's why finding a perfect, mint state quarter from that year is so rare. Collectors search for coins graded MS66, MS67, or higher. And when these high-grade examples combine with a recognized mint error, the result is breathtaking. Let's talk about one such case. A collector from Nevada, who had been roll hunting for years, came across a 1988 quarter that looked unusually sharp. The detail on Washington's hair was crisp. The eagle's feathers were flawless. And most interestingly, the coin had a light double die effect on the word Liberty. He had it graded. It came back MS67 with a verified DDO.AT auction. Collectors swarmed. They knew what they were looking at, a high-grade coin from a high mintage year that somehow survived time, with an error that was as clear as it was rare. And when the bidding stopped, the final sale price was $95,000. That's right, $95,000, for a quarter. Now let me ask you, have you checked your 1988 quarters lately? Look at them again, feel their weight. Study their edges. Use a magnifying glass. Look for doubling. For copper exposure. For alignment issues. For anything that seems just a little off, because in the coin world, a tiny difference can make a huge fortune. Thanks for watching, and remember, on this channel, we don't just talk coins, we uncover treasures. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the incredible world of the 1988 Washington quarter, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you never miss another discovery here on Valuable Coins All World. And if you've got a strange or unique 1988 quarter in your collection, drop a comment below. Who knows? Your coin could be worth more than you think. Until next time, keep collecting, keep dreaming, and never underestimate the power of pocket change.